Good morning. It's great to be here. I love the enthusiasm in this crowd. This is Old Homes Day, so it's great to see y'all. I need to start out by noting something that you probably are unaware of. Today is the birthday of two people in this room, Fred and his twin brother Eric. This is true. Today is their birthday. Now, if there were a triplet, and it's not her birthday today, but I would put Whitney up here because y'all have been doing great things. So Whitney, thank you for your relentless leadership on these issues. You know, I'll tell you, I come here with unbridled sense of optimism because I'm looking around this room. I want to thank those from the business community who are here. I started in this work. I really started in this work as a kid growing up in Buffalo, New York, because I saw what happens when you have structural unemployment and you have people in my parents' generation, most notably my surrogate father. My dad died when I was a kid, and my surrogate father had a 10th grade education, and when things went south in Buffalo, he went from a middle-class existence to pumping gas and working in the deli counter, anything to make ends meet, and they lost their house. And this is very personal to me. So that's where I got into this business. And then working in local government with Eric, and I met him in jail because Eric worked in Montgomery County, Maryland, doing great work, making sure that we vindicated the notion that we believe in second chances and that every person has gifts and talents, and it's simply up to us to draw those out. And through those local and state partnerships, we were led in Maryland. Our Workforce Investment Board was led by actually the two CEOs of the largest healthcare systems in Maryland, Hopkins and Adventist Health, and they became very close friends. Ron Peterson, by the way, the most prolific employer of ex-offenders in the state of Maryland is Hopkins. Not only at entry levels, but allied health professionals and other things. And if Ron were here, he'd talk for you for an hour with you. So I so value my partnerships with business leaders because I've said many times, if you're going to create jobs, you got to talk to job creators. And if you're going to create jobs, as Eric taught me, you can't have that train and pray model. No one's hiring widget makers. We're not going to train widget makers, okay? And we got to know what's happening out there in every sector. And so, Eric taught me just about everything I know about this stuff, and I steal his lines, and then when the president used no train and pray, quoting me, I had to go back to him to say, well, actually, it really wasn't me, it was Eric. And then I went back to Eric, and he said, well, it really wasn't me, I stole it from someone else. I don't remember who it was. So we keep having footnotes on this. But I bring this up because I so valued the partnerships I had with labor unions. And I remember going up a few months back and visiting 1199 up in New York, the great partnership you have with Health and Hospital. And I know you were giving awards out this morning, a number of healthcare systems, including we got some Baltimore folks here, and welcome here. And I've seen those partnerships at work. I was out in Pittsburgh last week at Allegheny Health Systems, a wonderful union labor partnership in Pittsburgh to make sure that we are doing our best to serve our patients and we're doing our best to empower our employees. Win-win solutions, looking at today's and tomorrow's challenges, not relitigating yesterday's challenges. That's what I see across this country, and I come to you with a sense of that optimism because, people need our help more than ever. There's more attention being given to this than ever. There is more partnership out there than ever. You hear the president in the State of the Union talking about American job centers, 2,500 strong, and you look at the First Lady's box and you see a woman who took her business from 0 to 800, and she is the sole source provider of consoles for Ford F-150s, showing that you can make things in America, in the city of Detroit, one of my favorite cities, and she's doing that. And you see the partnerships with philanthropy. I saw many of you a few weeks ago, Sunday, at the Council on Foundations. And if you are a national foundation, I thank you for your efforts. If you are a community foundation, I thank you for your efforts. In Maryland, I spent so much time with Baltimore area grant makers, and they were so helpful in the workforce space. So we have a remarkable set of opportunities right now in America, and that's why I'm here, because I really want to talk about some of those opportunities and some of those challenges, and tell you a little bit more about what we're up to. And then for me, my favorite part of this is taking your questions, because I want to hear your feedback. And the thing I really need your help above everything is, I'm a civil rights lawyer and a labor lawyer. And when I look at a challenge, the thing that I always think about is, how did people before us address their challenges and tackle vexing problems? Well, one of the things they did, people like Dr. King and others, is they build a movement. They bring people together. Immigration reform is going to pass again, I guarantee you. And, it's going to pass because we have a movement. We talk to folks out in the Silicon Valley, and I spoke to folks as recently as yesterday who are working as doggedly as ever. We talk to nonprofit friends. We talk to people of faith communities across an ideological spectrum. We bring that together. That's how you get sustainable change. And so I want to talk to you at the outset about the last question I'm going to talk to you, and that is, I need your help in building a movement. Because everywhere I go across America, I hear good news. Employers tell me time and time again. I was, in addition to Allegheny Health Systems, I was at an advanced manufacturer, ATI, out in Pittsburgh last week. He told me the same thing. They do incredible things. They produce titanium that goes on Boeing jet engines. They produce titanium that is in my right knee. I'm a frequent flyer for orthopedic surgeons across Maryland. So, I've had 5 knee surgeries. I had a total knee replacement. I did a lot of, well, that's a different conversation at lunch. But, I talked to the CEO, Rich, and he says, I'm bullish about our future. And my biggest challenge, Tom, is I need a skilled workforce. I need to make sure that I have that skilled workforce that enables me to grow. I go to Wisconsin. I talk to advanced manufacturers. They tell me, Tom, the average age of a skilled tradesperson in Wisconsin is 59 years old. And, present company excluded, the population is aging. And we got to deal with that challenge. And by the way, I know how you deal with that challenge in Milwaukee and other places across this area. You recognize that the average age of a Latino in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, is 17. You recognize that there are people in the city of Milwaukee who are dying for work, who, have opportunity gaps. And I got married in Milwaukee. I spent a lot of time in Milwaukee. It's one of my favorite cities. We go back there all the time. And there are opportunity gaps. That's why when I was at the Council on Foundations, we were talking about my brother's keeper. Because these opportunity gaps are all too frequent. And for all too many people, your zip code is determining your outcomes in life. That's not who we are as Americans. That's why so many people in this room in philanthropy and business and elsewhere are investing in our communities. And so, I start with that optimism. That's what I hear from business leaders. I start with the fact that you have the president talking about skills, talking about American job centers. His opportunity agenda is based on 4 basic tenets. Number 1, we need to grow more jobs that pay a decent wage. Number 2, we need to make sure people have the skills to compete. Number 3, we need to make sure that everybody has access to a sound and solid education, starting in pre-K and going through PhD. And you may have on-ramps and off-ramps, but you need to have those opportunities. And finally, we need to make sure that we reward work by paying a decent wage that ensures healthcare security and housing security and retirement security. Those are the opportunity agendas that y'all are working on. And we're making progress. We just had Numbers Day, first Friday of the month. I spent a lot of time on radio and television. And last first Friday of the month, we talked again about the fact that we have 51 consecutive months of private sector job growth to the tune of 9.4 million jobs that have been created in the private sector. The last 4 months have been particularly good. And we're moving forward. And, I hear sometimes that the only jobs being created are low-wage jobs. That's empirically inaccurate. If you look at the recovery, you see a lot of growth in low-wage jobs. Low-wage jobs tend to be the first to go and also the first to come back. And there are way too many people, don't get me wrong, that are working hard and living in poverty. That's not who we are as America. That's why we work on minimum wage and other things. But we also see good job creation at the high-level jobs. The jobs that paid a high wage are coming back as well. The area where we have seen the poorest growth is in the middle wage jobs. And let me give you one example. Construction. We've had a good 1-year stretch in construction. A solid growth last month, solid growth in the last year. That has brought us back to 25% of the construction jobs we have gotten back that were lost in the recession. And compare that to the healthcare sector, which empirically has been basically recession-proof. Even during the darkest days, you were seeing growth in the healthcare sector, more toward the ambulatory care areas now, but that's the growth areas that you were seeing. And so those middle wage jobs, which are often middle skill jobs, those are areas where we have a lot of work to do. And so we're moving in the right direction, but we're not moving nearly fast enough. And we see the stagnation in wages, and you see it in your cities. We have productivity growth over the last few decades of over 90% and real wage growth of something like 2 or 3%. So that is really the nub of the challenge for so many people. They either don't have the job that they want, or they have a job, but they don't have the ability to move forward because they're not making enough. And that is why we are so involved, because my parents taught me early on, and I'm the youngest of 5, the quintessential immigrant story, and for them it was always education is the great equalizer. Later this month is the 40th anniversary of my father's passing. I was 12. And he was working, he had gotten a second job shortly before he passed away because he was trying to pay for college for my older siblings. And so, they always taught us to get your education. That's the key to success. And you look at the data, and it's borne out. If you have a college degree, unemployment rate is 3.2%. You have some college or associate's degree, something like that, unemployment rate is 5.5%. High school degree, unemployment rate 6.5%. Less than a high school degree, unemployment rate 9.1%. Education continues to be the great equalizer, and that is why the stuff that y'all are working on, that we are working on together in partnership with you, is so critically important, because making sure that everybody has the skills to succeed and punch their ticket to the middle class is what it's all about. And that is what I want to talk about, is some of the things that we are up to, because as part of the president's attention to this issue, he has tasked the vice president with leading an effort on skills. And that effort really has 5 basic tenets. Our goals are to expand and strengthen our partnerships with employers so that they can more seamlessly utilize the workforce system. I meet too many employers who either haven't heard of us in the public workforce system, or in some cases have heard of us and have voted with their feet. So we got to do a better job in the public workforce system. And having said that, I am incredibly proud of the work that the public workforce system has done. I look at the recession and the work that was done there. Public workforce system was really the emergency room for job seekers, and 14 million people a year coming through the doors of American job centers across this country. And I think about the example in Detroit that I cited, and I think about the work that we did in Maryland. I think about the sector strategy work and the career pathways work that we have been doing. Some great things that were done, but we can do a better job. And we also have a tree falling in the woods phenomenon. I see partnerships and communities that are working great. And we need to lift those partnerships up, figure out what we can export from those great partnerships to other places around the country. So that's one goal. Another goal is to make the system more user-friendly for job seekers as well, and making sure that they can acquire in-demand jobs. Again, making sure that we are job-driven, demand-driven, so that every single dollar that we spend is getting people the skills they need to compete for not yesterday's jobs, but for today's and tomorrow's jobs. Basic tenet is rewarding, recognizing innovation across the country. And there is so much innovation. We convened a meeting recently of workforce innovation grantees at the Department of Labor, and it was a remarkable day together, seeing what's happening in communities across this country. And we need to figure out how we scale those up. We have a conversation all the time about scaling. And so that's another issue that we're trying to do, is recognize innovation, reward it, and take it to scale. Fourth is imploding stovepipes within the federal government. If you're a 22-year-old veteran who's been honorably discharged, you're living with your mother in subsidized housing, and you want to get a job, and you're on food stamps, I've just articulated funding streams from about 5 different agencies of the federal government that are available to help you with your workforce needs. Historically, there was way too much stovepiping in the federal stream, and we are changing that. When I was in Maryland, we established a workforce subcabinet under the theory, follow the money, make it easier for folks, and we worked together with all the agencies that had skin in the game. That's what we're doing with the federal government now. We're working closer than ever, for instance, with Tom Vilsack at USDA, helping to create career pathways for people who are on food stamps so that they can get off food stamps. Because everybody I meet who is on food stamps tells me, I don't want to be on food stamps. I want to get a better job that helps me to be self-sufficient. And that's what we're going to do by imploding these stovepipes. Our career pathways work that Eric has done, and we're doing with the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, is again, stovepipe implosion initiatives. Making sure that we're working with HUD. They have so many dollars that they give out to help, CDBG money and others. And there's Section 3 of the HUD Act is one of the most powerful provisions that says if you're receiving HUD dollars, you need to make sure that people in your communities who are very low income have access to job training opportunities. And we're working with HUD in ways that we never have before. And so silo implosion is a huge part of what we do. May not get A1 coverage on the Washington Post, but this is the, plumbing, and the blocking and the tackling that makes a difference for job seekers and for businesses alike. And finally, lifting up the critical role of apprenticeship everywhere I go. And again, last week in Pittsburgh being the most recent example, we see conversations about the critical need for apprentices across this country. And we have $100 million that we're going to be putting out later this fall to address this critical issue. Because again, in Wisconsin, and you heard from Boeing yesterday, I believe you heard from the general counsel, he gave me a tour of the Boeing plant outside of Seattle, and it was remarkable. The number of people who are within 7 years of retirement. The conversation we had focused very specifically on those issues. And frankly, we've underinvested in this area, and that is unfortunate. And we have a marketing challenge in the apprenticeship area, because I talk to too many parents whom I say, there's a bright future in the trades for your children, and they say, no, my kid's going to college. And I tell them, well, hey, you know what? Go to the Finishing Trades Institute in Philadelphia, a remarkable partnership between labor and business. And you can become a glazier, and you can become a painter, or you can become a drywaller. And guess what? These programs are accredited by the Department of Education and the Department of Labor. And you're on that higher ed superhighway. You go to the utility industry, people completing apprenticeship programs are coming out halfway done with their associate's degree. And again, they're in the process of punching their ticket to the middle class. And so I see remarkable opportunities for apprenticeship, and actually we're going to be talking about that later today, because we're having a forum across town to discuss this. And so we're not only thinking about these things, but we're putting our money where our mouth is. My mother would be very unhappy with me right now. And, I'm just, I look at the work that we're doing right now and the money that we're putting in. And one of the things I would observe about it is the remarkable amount of alignment between what we're doing in the federal government and what you're doing in philanthropy. And that alignment is a function of the fact that I think we're communicating better than ever. We've had a number of meetings at DOL. We've participated in a number of your meetings. I remember meeting with the business leadership, what was it called? Blue? Yes, and I'm not sure about that acronym because I'm not feeling blue about this, okay? I'm feeling very bullish about this. But I loved the business leaders who are around the table there. And our tax program, which is year 4, and by the way, the reason we need to build that movement is right now there is no year 5 of TACT. Our money expires at the end of this year. And we have catalyzed partnerships across this country in remarkable ways through those $1.5 billion investments. And I want to thank those in philanthropy who helped support a convening a few months ago down in Florida of TAC recipients where we shared best practices, talked about scalability. It was remarkably productive. It is so exciting to go to these different communities, whether it's Broward County, Florida, or whether it's Los Angeles, and see the remarkable work that's being done and the partnerships that are being catalyzed. And let me give you one example. In Los Angeles, we gave a grant to the 6 community colleges that are in Los Angeles. It was focused primarily on health professions. They had never before collaborated on a DOL grant. And if you had taken Nursing 101 at Community College A in Los Angeles, the curriculum bore little or no resemblance to Nursing 101 in Community College B, and they had not really consulted with any of the employers to figure out what are the core competencies that you want us teaching. That's old paradigm. They're now in new paradigm where they understand what the demand needs were. And by the way, once they sat down and spoke about it, they understood that, oh, we've got demand for phlebotomists, we've got demand for other allied health professionals. We need to build these certificate programs in those areas as well. And that's precisely what we're doing. And that's precisely what TACT was intended to do. We have other money on the street now, money that's designed to get at things like long-term unemployment, which of all the issues I deal with is the issue that keeps me up the most at night, because this is the most vexing and important unfinished business from the Great Recession. Ordinarily, you have long-term unemployment of about 1%. Our current long-term unemployment rate is 2.2%. And that translates into millions of people who, through no fault of their own, can't get back on their feet. I meet with them regularly. Their drive and determination inspires me. And we have many programs that work. Our on-the-job training program, where we subsidize wages, has been evaluated. It is a real winner. I've talked to employers who've used it and loved it, and we've got to figure out how we take it to scale. We're catalyzing best practices elsewhere. I look forward to the review of those. I think they're due today or tomorrow or next week, something like that. And that's an example, again, of DOL dollars at work, helping whether it's workforce intermediaries, whether it's local WIBs, businesses, other partners coming together. We need to do more of that, and that's precisely the types of things that we are doing. And that's why I love this work, because under Eric and Portia Wu's leadership, we're doing a lot of different things, and Fred has been so helpful. This summer, we're establishing, for instance, a national peer learning network for grantees. This is the work that we're doing in sector strategies, which I think are a linchpin of what is happening. You look at the reauthorization of the Workforce Investment Act, there are specific references in that bill, and that bill will get signed. And that bill will get passed, I predict, in the very near future. And I applaud the bipartisan, bicameral efforts in Congress in this area, again, reflecting the fact that we're all in this together on this business. Real focus in that bill on sector strategies, real focus in that bill on career pathways. And we're establishing, with the help of Fred and others, a peer learning network for grantees in the sector strategy context. We're doing 3 two-day convenings in Boston, Atlanta, and San Francisco to bring together state and regional leaders in this area. We're developing an interactive web resource so that we can promote this TA. This is about scaling, because we know sector strategies work, and we want to make sure we figure out a way to scale those sector strategies. And we're continuing our efforts, as I said, in the apprenticeship context, because I believe that this is an area where we can have remarkable growth. And the president has set forth a very ambitious goal, but I think it's a doable goal. We want to double the number of apprenticeships, registered apprenticeships in this country in the next 5 years. I think we can do it. I think this holds tremendous opportunity. And I look at the numbers. You know, we have about 358,000 registered apprenticeships in the United States. And you compare that with Germany, a country that's far smaller. They have 1.8 million registered apprentices in Germany. And when somebody's, by the way, you look at their youth unemployment, compare it with ours, they're in better shape. Not a coincidence. You look at an 18-year-old who's at that fork in the road, do I go four-year higher ed or do I go the apprenticeship track? Both of those tracks enjoy equal stature in Germany and in other nations. We need to restore the stature of apprenticeship and not limit it to the traditional trades, because I talk to people in IT, healthcare, information technology, cybersecurity, etc., and they tell me that there is a bright future for apprenticeship in their areas. And so that's why we need to continue those efforts there. And you know, the return on investment is remarkable. For every taxpayer dollar we spend on apprenticeship, we see $27 in benefits. That's a pretty good ROI. If we had that on every program, we'd be going gangbusters. And I applaud the efforts of a number of states. South Carolina, for instance, has been a real leader in this area. They have increased apprenticeships by 500% through a tax credit and an innovative business-oriented organization. We're seeing a lot of employers taking the lead. UPS, for instance, is expanding their existing apprenticeship program for drivers. And so we see the work being done. I mentioned the Finishing Trade Institute. And what was remarkable about that program is they were taking kids from Philadelphia public schools and giving them opportunities. And that is remarkable. And I met a kid recently in San Francisco who had just completed an IBEW registered apprenticeship. And he said, "Tom, have you ever seen Willy Wonka?" And I said, "Well, yeah, a long time ago. I just got my golden ticket because I'm a journeyman. And, you know, I'm making 60 grand a year and I'm 25 years old and I'm feeling pretty good about myself." You know, I met a woman in Philly who had a college degree who said, "You know, I've always wanted to work with my hands and my parents didn't want me to. You need a 4-year degree. Well, now I got this, now I'm training apprentices. I'm making much more money than I would have made, you know, with my college degree, and I'm happier." And so these are the stories I see. These are the opportunities I see. And these are the connections that we're trying to make to things like My Brother's Keeper and our other initiatives, you know, our community-based initiatives, our career ladders initiatives, our promise zones initiatives. The folks in the White House who are working on the promise zones are the same folks working on My Brother's Keeper. So we are imploding stovepipes and building the partnerships within the federal government, and we will continue to do that. You know, the work that we're doing to help former offenders is something I'm very proud of, and we'll be announcing some grants later today. And Eric has been a particular leader on that inside the department. And again, the old paradigm used to be DOJ would work on the drug treatment stuff, we would work on the job training stuff, and never the twain shall meet. The new paradigm is partnership, holistic approaches, recognizing that we have to address all of the barriers to employment and self-sufficiency holistically. And that's precisely what we're doing in those grants. Because, you know, when it comes down to it, and I really want to turn to the questions now, Fred, and what it comes down to is the business of government, the business of everybody in this room is expanding opportunity. That's what we're doing. And when we invest in skills, when we continue to take these partnerships to scale, and when we build that movement, and that's really what we need to do. You know, and I talked to the folks at Blue about that movement. You know, when we build that movement, when we have businesses and labor unions and community college presidents and the CEOs of Boeing and others coming in saying, this is an absolute part of our competitive advantage as a nation. When we have everybody doing that, when we have our workforce system working together with the private companies who are training as well, making sure that everybody knows what we're doing, that's the essence of expanding opportunity. And I have remarkable optimism because I've been traveling the country, seeing what y'all are doing, seeing what y'all are funding, seeing what y'all are evaluating. And it's good stuff. Except the challenge is, we got a remarkable demand issue. A lot of people need our help because, Opportunity Quilt is fraying a bit for all too many people. And that's why this conference couldn't be better timed. And that's why I am so thrilled to be here. And that's why I am confident that working together, we can take these partnerships to scale. We can help more people. We can grow more businesses. And we can build an America where everybody can punch their ticket to the middle class. Everybody. Thank you very much. It's great to be with you.